Hello and welcome to a special bonus series of Locked On Lakers, where we talk with ESPN's Tim MacMahon about his new book detailing the life and career of Luka Dončić. Part 1 coming up next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Lakers your first listen everywhere you get your podcast, Monday through Friday, always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where an awesome community of over 34,000 subscribers watch the shows, leave frequent comments. We often use those comments as part of the show. Whether you are listening, whether you are watching, make sure you are subscribing so you will always get every episode of Locked On Lakers. Last week, Brian and I talked with Tim MacMahon about his new book, Wonderboy, Luka Dončić, and the Curse of Greatness, which was released today, March 25th. And we covered a lot of ground, and the interview was ultimately too long for the Locked On format as far as being one episode. And rather than make a ton of cuts and edits, which ultimately I don't think serves our audience well, you guys end up missing out on a lot of great insights and details. We decided instead to release the conversation in installments in a week-long series. And today we begin with questions about Luka's personality and a childhood in basketball that feels very similar in a lot of ways to LeBron James. So here is part 1 of that conversation with Tim MacMahon.
I don't know if this what's been going on has been better or worse or anything for the book, but the book is The Wonderboy, Luka Dončić, and the Curse of Greatness. It is obviously an extremely well-reported look at LA's newest star. And there's so much that we want to break down to really understand who it is that is in LA. And we'll obviously get into some stuff going on just with the conference this year as we get closer to the playoffs. But I found the most interesting stuff to me looking through the book was, you know, the early life, early career Luka stuff that I just wasn't as familiar with. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of break down where his basketball personality comes from? Because, you know, the sort of the trash talk and the flair and the, you know, all that stuff that we're seeing now in LA, it seems to have a lot of roots from how he played as a kid.
I mean, he was born with it. Like, he was born as an absolute ruthless competitor. And I tell a story in there that I heard when I went to Slovenia. I just happened to meet one of the guys that was, the guy just described himself as the 15th man on the Slovenian under-16 team when Luka Dončić played a friendly tournament in Hungary, you know, an under-16 friendly tournament. It was the only time Luka had played in the Slovenian national program before Eurobasket, when he's Goran Dragic's co-star on the Eurobasket championship team. But so they're playing in this tournament in Hungary, and they're playing against Romania. And there was a guy on another team who was described to me as like a Pat Bev type, you know, just a smallest, scrappy, just irritant of a guard who very early in the game catches Luka with an elbow and cuts him open above his eyebrow. And Luka's over there on the bench, and he's got the towel on there, you know, stopping. He's over there, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, whatever. And once he can get the bleed and stop, like slams the towel down, like storms past the coach, goes right to the score, says, I'm going back in the game. You know, he's pissed off. And very first play, you know, Luka organizes so where he's running pick and roll, and, you know, the little Romanian Pat Bev's going to have to come on over and help defense. And it unfolds exactly how Luka envisioned. You know, the man knows he knows his basketball, and unfolds exactly how he envisions. And Luka, obviously, he's never been known as a high flyer, but in this case, he goes up, dunks on the dude. The guy falls down. Luka gets the ball, slams it into his chest, and unleashes a stream of profanity that was questioning his manhood. And that really sums up, like, the ruthless, you know, you could even say nasty competitive nature of Luka Dončić. And when Luka is locked in and his wrath is focused on an opponent, or a lot of times you'll see in a road game, there's like a courtside fan or a fan of the first couple rows that you say one thing and it might not even be that inflammatory. Don't give Luka a reason to make you the main target of his wrath. When he's in that mode, like we've seen some unreal performances from this guy. I mean, think of like fresh on the mind, think Game 5 Western Conference Finals closeout in Minnesota. He knew exactly who he was going at because the guy had barked at him the first couple games. Not very successfully, I'll add. But yeah, that's just always kind of been in him. Now, the emotions, when the wrath is focused on the referees, that tends to turn into distraction and a lack of focus. But this guy he was just born like you're either that kind of competitor or you're not. And it's that way. Like I can't tell you how many teammates, coaches, whatever, have lost money to Luka on like half court shooting competitions or those sort of things. It's like Jordan, with the security guard who did the Jordan shrug with flipping the coin. Like Luka's always looking for a way to compete. That's just part of his DNA, part of his fabric.
And take a quick break to let people know that Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wonder where did all the money go between dining out, online shopping, entertainment? It's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, spending in one place, and you can just stop managing your money and start building wealth. You can enjoy convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can instead use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. You can enjoy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever, and you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half of your first year. I was thinking about Luka in terms of how early he started. He got I believe he was 13 years old when he got that contract with Real Madrid. And do you think of him as like a child prodigy?
Yes.
In the same way we often talk about like LeBron. The NBA audiences often think about this stuff like through Americanized eyes. But, he started really early. He was called the best prospect in Europe, got the El Nino Maravilla nickname, the Wonderboy. Like, do you see commonalities along those ways?
No, 100%. Hey, Brian, you're muted.
Well, I was trying to make sure the noise of it,
Does Andy have?
He has a lineage that comes, through his parents and through his dad.
Certainly his dad's kind of the Slovenian Charles Barkley. His dad's like this big gregarious personality there. He was a 6-time All-Star in the Adriatic League. There are people there who will tell you his dad didn't quite reach his full potential because he enjoyed a steak and some wine and those sorts of things. But his dad is a major figure in the Slovenian basketball world. And growing up in Slovenia, Luka was Sasha's son. Sasha's now kind of transitioned to being Luka's dad. Certainly over in America, he's Luka's dad. But growing up as Sasha Dončić's son, that was a thing. Certainly in Slovenia. But yeah, 100% a child prodigy. And I would say it's even a little bit different than, LeBron or these guys and LeBron, obviously he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. What was it at 16 years old, chose one and all that. But the biggest difference, and it's been compared to me of like a Justin Bieber type of thing in the sense of Luka left his home country at the age of 13. He wasn't just growing up with a spotlight on him. He left and went to Spain, had to learn a new language, had to kind of assimilate to a new culture. And so it's almost like he didn't get to experience his adolescence. And sometimes maybe he's frozen in that adolescence. But yeah, he gave up his adolescence and like what was left of his childhood to basically become a pro at 13. And, like he's living in dorms and that sort of thing. But he was practicing with Real Madrid's top team, which is, Real Madrid's like the Lakers of EuroLeague. He's practicing with their top team at 15. He's on the roster at 16. He's a key rotation player at 17. At 18, he's freaking MVP of the EuroLeague, which was unprecedented. Youngest MVP ever. And so, I mean, he has been a pro since his mid-teens, and a pro with a massive spotlight on him, not just because wow, what a childhood project. I think he was the third youngest player in EuroLeague history. But not only are you the third youngest player in EuroLeague history, you're on Real Madrid, and like these vets, these European legends, they're like, dude, this guy at 15 years old is hooping in practice. Like he belongs. And so, yeah, there's definitely been a massive spotlight on this kid. And even when he was like 13, 14, he's playing up a couple of, he's dominating 15s and 16s when he's 13. And so, it was almost like a mythical type of figure. Salah Mejri, who ended up playing for the Mavericks and, was with the Mavericks for Luka's first couple of years, but he was on Real Madrid's top team when Luka was coming up through the ranks. And he said the guys for, like the vets on Real Madrid, they would, check on Luka's progress, like look for his box scores, similar to at the time he gave me that similar to guys would do in the pros or in the NBA when Zion was at Duke, or like now, like guys like, what's Cooper Flagg doing? That's how these guys looked at Luka as he was coming up.
And thanks for checking out part 1 of our conversation with Tim MacMahon. Part 2 will be coming out on Wednesday. So be looking forward to that. And until then, we will talk to you next time.